Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, like and subscribe. And if you're not, boy do we have a lot to say about Morbius.
Man, that movie. You can go ahead and...
My expectations going into this were like really low, but I did not expect it to be that, what's the word I'm looking for, convoluted, horribly paced, awfully edited,
especially
overall dumb.
Yeah, especially with the movie having, was it 2 years?
Yeah, this movie was supposed to come out before Spider-Man No Way Home, and it shows that it was supposed to come out before that movie. I think it was supposed to come out before Venom 2.
Yeah.
Or a little while, or right around the same time. But I don't know, why did they make this movie? That's what the main question is. Like, I've never heard anyone say, you know what movie I really want to see them make? A Morbius movie. I mean, there's just something about that Morbius. I wish, why can't we get a Morbius movie out there? I mean,
it would have been a better movie if it was Kraven the Hunter.
That's coming out. They're already making that. But honestly, I'm not looking forward to that after seeing this. I mean, I'm not even a fan of the Venom movies, and this movie was basically Venom minus the fun. That's literally what this movie was.
None of the jokes hit.
Yes, none of the jokes hit. None of the jokes. And we weren't even though we were in a theater that didn't really have a lot of people because we went to our local one, which sucks, by the way. But
He's not wrong.
No one laughed at any of the jokes. The only time people like giggled or chuckled a little was like Matt Smith scenes, because
he made the movie.
Matt Smith steals the show in this movie, and he really outperforms Jared Leto, who I think is extremely overrated, even though he is an Oscar winner for Best Supporting Actor for Dallas Buyers Club. I still think he's overrated, especially in this movie. He is like he's almost robotic, kind of, because he has only one emotion throughout the entire movie. Even when something significant happens, it's just the same emotion, the same exact tone in his voice the entire movie. When you're watching Matt Smith act, it's like an actual performance. He's actually has levels. He seems to be the best part of all the bad movies he's in. That's all I gotta say about him.
So I had some main points that I literally started listing out during the movie just because I couldn't wrap my head around certain parts. For example, there were like the two deaths that happened in the movie made no sense as far as how...
You're talking about, this is a spoiler review.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Like, we can say, like, which deaths are you talking about?
Talking about the older guy dying.
Oh, the father figure.
Yeah.
What was his name? 1 second. I know that Jared Harris plays on once. Nichols, Dr. Nichols.
Yeah, him dying, and then literally the next scene.
Yeah, he's literally holding his dead body while he's hearing someone else die.
Yeah,
that's very important. His love interest. Like,
which they tried to force
fast. Like, and there was the reason that the villain kills her. I couldn't understand. I could not understand anyone's motivation in this movie. I couldn't understand Morbius's motivation. Like, I don't know if he's trying to cure himself or he just wants to stop Milo. That's the villain's name. Yeah. Milo. That was the word.
Yep.
Milo. Or I didn't understand Milo's motivation. He said he wanted Morbius to accept who he truly was. That was dumb.
Just by how it was what's it called? The pace of the movie was. We talked about this. There's at least 30 to 45 minutes of the movie that's missing.
Like, I feel like they took a chainsaw to this movie. That's how it's edited. It felt like there was 30 minutes more to this movie, but they just chainsawed it completely out of it. And they did a sloppy job doing it too.
Yep. And the whole PG-13 no blood thing messed with the movie a whole lot more than it needed to.
Well, I feel like it messed with the tone of the movie. Like, this movie, when Morbius first arrives on the ship, like, that's when he first becomes the vampire. You go on to this kind of semi-horror, semi-action scene where he's just killing all these mercenaries, and I'm just like, this could have been a great horror sequence, but they just went semi-horror, semi-action, comic booky movie,
and they fully went in with the CGI with how.
Oh man.
Yeah, that took me off too.
Speaking of CGI, I'm still confused. The whole movie's confusing. They can't even like get his powers straight. Like, I'm confused on if he can fly or if he can just glide, because 1 minute he's flying and then like
gliding,
and then later he's just gliding. It's like, if you ever played that, you remember that game Prototype on the Xbox? Yeah. That's literally how it looked. You literally use the same graphics or animations, CGI, whichever you want to say. It's literally the exact same thing.
And it made no sense. Because that's what I was trying to figure out throughout the whole entire movie. Why does he still somewhat show up with like his like self basically still showing up at the where he was at, and then going to another place? Like, he's not what's his name from X-Men? He's not
Nightcrawler.
He's not Nightcrawler. Like,
oh, I don't. It was just so like what I'm confused about is why didn't Milo, who Matt Smith plays, why didn't he have the exact same powers as Morbius? Because I keep calling him Morpheus, like from the Matrix for some reason. I've even been spelling it that way. Like, when I spelled the movie, like whenever I text someone and say I'm going to see Morbius, I spelled it Morpheus. I don't know why, but anyway, but they both take the exact same cure because they both have the exact same disease that's killing them.
Which they never actually showed that Milo did.
Yes, that's a big plot hole that I'm about to get to because it really pissed me off. But they both take the exact same thing, yet Morbius has so many more powers, it seems, than Milo does, and it makes no sense at all. Especially the power he discovered he had in the climax of the movie. It just comes out of nowhere, and it makes no sense because there's nothing like to indicate throughout the movie that he has this ability hidden within him or anything like that. It just shows up automatically out of nowhere.
Halfway through the movie, Morbius decides he's the Batman.
Oh my gosh, that speaking of another thing that pissed me off, that this wasn't like they drew inspiration. They literally ripped off Batman Begins.
The whole entire scene.
They literally ripped off the scene where Bruce is in the Batcave and all the bats swarm him, and he's just like calming them like that, like he's facing his fear. But they did the exact same thing in Morbius. And they literally used the exact same score from Batman Begins. I'm not even kidding you. It's literally the exact same score in that scene. And then you hear it again in the end credits, and I'm just like, okay, so I heard it right.
Yep.
They literally just copied and pasted. And they still screwed it up.
And here's how it was. So we get to the end of the movie, and like everyone in the theater has no idea it's the end of the movie.
Oh,
it's
yes.
So anticlimactic.
Yes, the climax is like that. And then it's just like, it seems like that was like, the climax of this movie felt like the build up to an actual climax. Because next thing you know, he flies away and you see all this stuff about to happen. It looks like he's about to take on a bunch of people. And the next thing you know, it literally ends like Spider-Man.
Yep.
He literally flies up and his face just zooms right into his face. It ends exactly like Spider-Man No Way Home. And it was awful. Which because it got even worse because the post-credit scenes,
no,
which
no.
we are going to
We'll
get
wait.
to in a minute.
We will wait on
because, oh my god.
that. All right. Also, wanted to talk about the whole entire sequence with the cops being there. They had no reason whatsoever.
Yes.
Like there was no reason for them to be there.
Tyrese, and I don't know who the other guy is because it's really insignificant. He was just there to make jokes, and it wasn't even funny.
They were so bad.
But they literally had no purpose in this movie, story-wise. You could have taken them out, and it would have been the exact same movie. Everything that happened would have happened. They played no purpose in this movie at all. It was, I believe they had an arc that was cut from the movie. I truly believe it.
Yeah, because it made no sense for them to just have him in there and then randomly they disappear. They disappear from the rest of the movie.
I don't think Tyrese is that great of an actor. In fact, I know he's not that great of an actor, but he is kind of a big-ish name thanks to Fast and the Furious.
Yeah.
So they had to have had a plan or an arc for him because they were selling that he was in this movie. And they're also selling other stuff in this movie that we're going to get to in a minute that wasn't in the movie. But
quickly, just to spark again, because I do want to go ahead and lay this out. Milo, who was played by Matt Smith, the best part of the movie from the jump, literally as the little kid, whoever the little kid is that shows up as him, that plays him, from that to Matt Smith, great. Every single scene that he was in, he stole the show. Even certain scenes where it made no sense for what was happening. They did the little montage of him getting dressed and him dancing, and that was great. I really enjoyed that. And then he was able to not only maneuver that scene, but also maneuver the fact that he was in the midst of changing into the monster version of him too, and it was pretty well edited. That was the only well edited scene, really, fully.
I guess. I mean, the editing. I've seen movies that were edited way worse than this, like Batman v Superman. The theatrical cut. That is some awful editing on that one. But this movie it was more like, okay, why did you edit it this way? Why? This makes zero sense.
They could have made a whole new movie in 2 years, literally, because they had to shut down shop. Was it halfway through shooting the movie because of COVID?
I'm not sure. I could have sworn the first trailer to this dropped before. Really?
Yeah. But yeah, that's basically all those parts that I really wanted to touch base on. Besides the post-credit scenes, you had some stuff to talk about too.
Okay, so I don't know why this plot hole just really bothered me. So once Morbius comes to on the ship, he has 2 vials left that turns regular people into vampires. And they really make a point that there's 2 left. They really focus in on it a couple of times. So he puts them in his lab. Then later that night, a nurse is killed by a vampire. And they make you think that it's Morbius. But it's not. It's Milo who killed the nurse somehow, because literally the next day after, when he realizes the cops are coming to get that body, there's the 2 vials are still clearly seen on his desk, not been touched at all. So it's literally impossible that Milo could have gotten them. And that just bothered me throughout the entire movie. I was just like, that son of a bitch didn't kill her.
Well, I was thinking the same exact thing. I sat there and I looked at it. I was like, he must have gotten bit. I don't know.
No, he didn't get bit. I don't know. I really don't know. I have no idea. That just confuses me. I mean, the guy who wrote this movie also wrote The Last Witch Hunter. And
is that movie or that?
No,
show?
it's the Vin Diesel movie.
Yeah.
So he's not. He also wrote something else that's really bad. 1 second.
Who We can't think of it. We can't think of
Oh,
it.
he wrote the Power Rangers movie.
Which one?
The new one.
The new one wasn't bad.
It's not well written though.
No.
And Gods of Egypt.
Okay, Gods of Egypt was rough.
Yeah, so he doesn't have a good history, which made me think, man, this guy can't really write a good movie for all these. Let's give him $150 million film to write, and let's just throw it up on the screen. But to be fair, I thought there were hints of a good story. There could have been hints of a good story if they wanted, made more of a horror movie than a action movie.
In the beginning, I'll give Jared Leto props, especially in the beginning. He was very good at playing a sickly.
Yes, he plays a very good sick person, especially with his soft voice. Mm-hmm. He just needs to play sick people because he won an Oscar playing the transvestite or whatever with cancer.
Okay.
So he does a really good job at playing sick people. That's all I got to say.
Maybe his strong suit isn't an anti-hero or villain in any Marvel, DC.
I would say his strong suit isn't showing emotion. Because he just doesn't seem to do that well from any movie I've ever seen him in.
But overall, I would say the movie is not a good time.
No, it's not.
It's not the worst movie I've ever seen, but it's just not a good time. Now,
I stand by my statement. It's just Venom without fun.
Okay, let's get on to those post-credit scenes.
Do we have to?
Yes, we do have to, man.
Okay, the first post-credit scene. For everyone that's seen Spider-Man No Way Home, the climax of that movie, Doctor Strange is trying to hold the multiverse together, and you see all those cracks in the sky, and you see those villains coming through. So the post-credit scene in Morbius, the first one, you see that crack in the sky over this New York City in Morbius's universe. And then all of a sudden, Adrian Toomes, aka Vulture, played by Michael Keaton, just appears in a cell. Which makes no sense at all.
No, it's the line that hit me.
I like how he's looking at himself too. He's looking at himself too, like he doesn't recognize who he looks in the mirror too, like he doesn't recognize who he is. Like he's got a new face or something. It's Michael Keaton, still Michael Keaton.
Yeah, but the thing is, here's the thing. He appears in the universe, looks at himself, right? Is in no way freaking out that this just happened.
No way, he does not affect him at all. He in fact just cracks a joke and says, I hope the food's better in this place. Like, what? Realize you just completely went to a different place. I guess forget your wife and daughter because they're in an entire different universe, but you don't. I guess he doesn't know that yet.
And it's not even 2 scenes later. Like not even scenes. It's not even 2 seconds later. They're already reporting it on news.
Yes.
Adrian Toomes shows up in the universe and
he gets released because that makes sense. He has to get released. Yeah. He just shows up out of nowhere. There's no record of him. That makes sense, but that's the only thing that makes sense because that movie just throws a wrench in like the whole Doctor Strange and Spider-Man save the multiverse after kind of destroying it in the beginning.
And then just when you thought that first post-credit scene was bad.
I cannot believe this second post-credit scene. When it opened, I looked at Ghaffari and said, "Is this a car commercial?" Because this is like the first few seconds of this is literally Jared Leto driving a car into a desert, and I could have sworn he was going to say, "I drove a Mercedes before it was even cool to drive one." So like a Matthew McConaughey Lincoln commercial. I was just, but no, it gets even worse.
Pause before we get to that, okay? So as he's driving, and he's driving really freaking fast, all I could think to myself wasn't Morbius at the end of the movie trying to keep a low profile?
No, what I was thinking was I thought this guy could fly, so why the hell is he in a car?
Oh man! All right, so we get to the second post-credit scene, right?
So he stops in the middle of the desert.
Yep. Gets his phone.
Yep.
And then like a Spidey sense, I guess, instead of doing his echolocation that he's been doing throughout the whole entire freaking movie, he doesn't do that. He just turns around and Vulture just shows up out of nowhere
Speaking of
with
which,
his full suit.
yes, I want to know where the hell he got it from, because the only thing I transported to the universe was him. So where did he get the Stark tech and the alien tech to rebuild his suit?
It makes no sense. And then with Vulture being, we all know he's a bad guy.
No, he wasn't even a bad guy in Homecoming. He was just a guy trying to provide for his family. But all of a sudden, they just like, in this movie, you're just like,
Yeah,
no, he's evil now.
Yeah, he's fully evil now. But he then says we can do some good.
Oh my gosh.
And
no,
then-
but like, he says, you want to get a team together. I thought Sony learned their lesson, because this Sinister Six crap is what derailed the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man universe.
They definitely
And now,
didn't.
just like a kid that didn't learn not to touch the stove when it's hot, Sony has taken their hand and planted it straight onto the stove, flat palmed it, and now they're derailing the Venomverse by doing the exact same crap. Trying to set up this stupid Sinister Six movie. And next is Kraven the Hunter, which I bet they're gonna have Morbius and Vulture in the post-credit scenes. Like, hey, we're putting a squad together. You win. This is if it even gets made.
Yeah. The thing is, though, they can't get much worse with those two post-credit scenes. There's no way you can have a worse post-credit scene. In fact, the first Fast and Furious post-credit scene was way better than that.
Speaking of that, yeah,
Yep. But yeah, overall not a good time. Post-credit scene, not even worth it.
just skip it.
Yeah.
If you know what, we've already got spoilers. Don't even go see the movie.
Yeah, you really don't need to see it.
Don't ever watch it. If you have seen it, don't ever watch it again, because I guarantee you I will not be.
It felt like what was it? Was it Miss Marvel? What was it?
Captain Marvel?
Captain Marvel? I never even watched
That's
it.
the only MCU movie I haven't watched.
Yeah, I haven't. On that note,
Seriously though, that's basically saying the exact same thing.
Alright, so overall, not a good time, and I would never watch this again. In fact, I'd watch The Eternals before I watch this movie again. And I hate The Eternals.
That was alright.
I didn't like it.
The CGI in it's amazing.
It was beautifully shot.
Yeah.
I'll give you that.